Chapter 8. Entering the sect as a disciple after half a year of relentless cultivation. Han Li was finally going to take Dr. Ma's test. Zhang Tai was fidgeting as he stood close to Han Li. His behavior was nothing strange. As Zhang Tai had told Han Li that for the past 6 months, he had made no progress on the oracular chant given to them by Dr. Ma. Han Li knew that Zhang Tai's efforts in cultivating the oracular chant were no less intense than his own. Although Zhang Tai was unlike Han Li, who practiced like a madman, the efforts he expended could still be considered conscientious and diligent. Strangely, the oracular chant seemed to be useless to Zhang Tai. No matter how much effort he put in, he wasn't able to produce even the slightest amount of effects. It seems like Zhang Tai would never successfully cultivate the oracular chant. Han Li's mind was unsettled. He knew that Zhang Tai would probably fail the test. Even though Han Li was slightly successful in learning the oracular chant, he was not stronger than Zhang Tai in any way. So there was a high chance of both of them failing Dr. Ma's test. Fearing the worst, Han Li had assiduously cultivated. And by the time of the exam, the strange energy flowing in his body had increased by a little. If the energy was as thin as a strand of hair in the past, it was now slightly thicker, resembling a thread of cotton. Even so, this did not reassure Han Li, who feared he might not pass Dr. Ma's test. Are you guys prepared? Let me take a look at the fruits of your cultivation. Dr. Missouri squinted his eyes as he sat and coldly stared at the two of them. We are ready. Han Li and Zhang Tai could only put forth a bold face and agree. Dr. Ma slowly rose from his chair and stood up. He put the book that always seemed to be nearby down on the table. Extend your hand. Circulate your chi for me to see. Dr. Missouri held Zhang Tai's right wrist with one hand and placed his other hand on top of Zhang Tai's dantian. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Dr. Missouri retracted his hands and closely evaluated Zhang Tai. Zhang Tai's face was flushed as he nervously put his hands behind his back, lowering his head and not daring to look Dr. Missouri in the eye. He knew Dr. Missouri had most certainly discovered that he made no progress in the oracular chant and would probably punish him to teach the two of them a lesson. It's your turn. To their surprise, Dr. Missouri didn't even show the slightest indication that he would punish Zhang Tai. Some slight hints of disappointment flashing past Dr. Ma's eyes were the only reactions Dr. Missouri had. After examining Zhang Tai, he turned to Han Li and motioned for him to come closer. He then held Han Li's wrist and began the inspection. His touch feels just like ice. It doesn't feel like the touch of a human being, Han Li mused in his mind. The skin on Dr. Ma's hand was dried and full of calluses. As he held Han Li's hand, Han Li could feel slight waves of sharp pain. Perhaps it was because the external interference agitated the energy within Han Li's body. But the strange flow of energy actually started to circulate by itself. It flowed through his meridians and energy channels, passed all his ACU points from his dantian to his head, and flowed to his forelimbs. It completed a full cycle before flowing back to his dantian. The moment the strange flow of energy circulated throughout his entire body, Han Li's pain from Dr. Ma's touch immediately dissipated. AI. Dr. Missouri involuntarily let out a sound of surprise. It appeared that he had discovered the strange flow of energy in Han Li's body. Quick! Circulate your energy, according to that chant that I taught you once again. Although Dr. Missouri tried his best to suppress his elation, traces of madness and excitement still flashed through his eyes, causing Han Li to be secretly alarmed. Slowly, let me take a good look. Dr. Missouri added as his usually cold tone of voice became rushed, placing his other hand on Han Li's dantian. Han Li could feel both of Dr. Ma's hands tremble slightly. As Han Li circulated the strange energy, Dr. Missouri became quite agitated. Not bad. Not bad. This is the feeling that I wanted. I am not wrong. I am not mistaken. Ha ha ha. Dr. Ma, after a thorough examination, could no longer hold back and started laughing maniacally. Both his hands tightly clutched on Han Li's shoulder. Even his normally squinty eyes enlarged as they intensely stared at Han Li. It was as if he had seen a rare and valuable treasure, his eyes flashing with faint traces of madness. Han Li's ears were ringing from Dr. Ma's unceasing laughter, and he felt slight pain on his shoulder. Seeing the madness in Dr. Ma's eyes, Han Li could not help but feel terrified. Good. Very good. From the expression on Han Li's face, Dr. Missouri could tell that he was frightened. Only then did Dr. Missouri realize that he had been overeager. Thus, he controlled himself and regained his composure. In the future, you must work as hard as you're working right now. From this day onwards, you will be promoted to my personal disciple. After saying that, Dr. Missouri released his tight grip on Han Li's shoulder and proceeded to pat him in encouragement. Dr. Missouri regained his usual calm look, almost as if his loss of control had never happened. But from his occasional glances at Han Li, one could tell that he was still tremendously excited. As for you, Dr. Missouri finally shifted his gaze onto Zhang Tai. Zhang Tai was thunderstruck by the events that unfolded earlier. Seeing that Dr. Missouri shifted the topic of conversation to him, Zhang Tai awoke from his daze with a start. just thinking that he failed the assessment and would be asked to leave the mountain caused traces of bitterness to appear on Jiang Tai's face as he looked at Dr. Ma. Your talent is questionable. Despite such a long period of time, you still could not produce even a small trace of energy. Accepting you as my personal disciple would be too much of a stretch. Dr. Missouri repeatedly shook his head. Jiang Tai's heart fell down to the bottom of an abyss after seeing Dr. Missouri shaking his head. But suddenly, Dr. Missouri seemed to have thought of something interesting, as he gazed at Jiang Tai with a bizarre expression in his eyes. Looking at your bone structure, I may have a suitable martial arts technique for you. I just wonder if you are willing to learn from me. Dr. Ma's sudden shift in demeanor caught the two by surprise. It was as if Dr. Missouri wanted to allow Jiang Tai to pass the test. The moment Jiang Tai heard Dr. Ma, how could he reject the offer? He immediately gave his consent and said that he would be willing to learn from Dr. Ma. Good. Very good. The two of you can depart first. Tomorrow, I will hand you both new cultivation techniques. It could be seen that Dr. Ma's current spirits were excellent. Han Li and Jiang Tai both looked at each other and felt that today's test had been full of twists and turns. After all, both of them had actually passed, leaving them both relieved and satisfied.